Hello, everybody. It's the Chris. It's Thrift Shop Hustler. How you guys doing? It's been a it's been a long week for me. Today is Throwback Thursday. Just got to make sure that we are good with all the stuffs. It looks like I am live and we are here. So once again, everyone, thanks. I am Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. Been reselling for 30 plus years. Started when I was really young, selling baseball cards and collectibles as a young fella. So I want to welcome everyone here today. And this is kind of like an impromptu video. I was thinking about this today. I haven't really did a live video in a while. And I was thinking like, what could I do? Something a little different. And kind of like, I thought like, do you remember, since it's like Throwback Thursday, I thought it would be cool to kind of do a show and tell. I don't know if some of you remember in school where you would bring like a toy or something like that into school, and you would kind of show it off and stuff like that. And so I thought I would do that. We talk about, since it's Throwback Thursday today, we'll talk a little bit about some different things and how you can bank on nostalgia. Just want to make sure everything is good. All the levels are good. Hope everyone's week is going good. And so we are going to get cooking here. If you are in the chat, please leave a message so I know that all of my graphics and everything are going good. And we will get set and get ready to roll here. Got to pop up all my little pop-ups. So yeah, basically Throwback Thursday, I was thinking like, why don't I do a live show on nostalgia? A lot of eBay is pretty much based on nostalgia. I know that people sell a lot of clothes and stuff like that, but a lot of collectibles are geared towards nostalgia. If you really think about it, what's hot right now, video games are super hot right now. So, nostalgia is definitely something that is to bank on, and the key is also trying to figure out what things are going to be, sorry guys, what things are going to be hot in the future, because that's the thing, is catching future trends. For me, no one quite realized that fidget spinners were going to be super crazy and all that kind of stuff. So definitely video games right now is definitely a hot thing. And what I got right here is a regular Nintendo game. This was the first Nintendo. This was a Pirates game. This actually came with a map and all this stuff, and I just wanted to show you guys this. This was their first original Nintendo, and you can tell by the awesome cartridge. For the digital age, this is pretty much analog in a way. So this is a Nintendo game. This came out in 1985, and it ran to, I want to say, 1996, I think was the last game, if you can believe it. And a lot of the later games are worth a lot because a lot of people didn't purchase those other games. So definitely video games is something that has been catching on. And what happens is once kids of a certain generation get a little older, they look for these games. Like, this doesn't have to be Pirates, but a game that someone remembered a long time ago, that something with their child, is what they, a lot of people collect. And eBay literally banks on nostalgia. It says, My Cluttered Coop, hello. It says, I loved show and tell. Me too. It was crazy. I had this idea, and I thought, I'd do a pretty quick little live stream right before I bounce off to work. Hope everyone's doing good. Thank you for My Cluttered Coop for joining the chat. So yeah, definitely video games. You wonder why they're so hot. It's mostly based on nostalgia. Rarity has a lot to do with it. I remember in the early 2000s, when I was heavily into video games, I had thousands of Nintendo games, these kind of games, and I collected them very heavily. I actually ran a price guide online. It was called the NES Trade Page, and I used a local place called Game Dude. They had a list, so what I did is I went in and I did HTML, and I'd update the prices every few days, and it was a price guide, and that was in the early 2000s. This was way ahead of anything, because what I knew is I knew that video games, Nintendo games, were going to be the future baseball cards of the past. And what happens is, a lot of people didn't realize that some of these games are going to be so worth so much. You can get them. You were able to get them for super cheap at garage sales and stuff. Hey, Toy Addict, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. It's good to see you. We need to schedule that interview pretty soon. I need to figure out how to get another person on here. I kind of figured out how to do the live shows and stuff. So definitely got to get you. Toy Addict, for anyone that's not under, I'll leave a comment below, or I'll leave a link below for Toy Addict's YouTube page. She collects kind of like female vintage toys like strawberry shortcake and all of that stuff. But that's for another time. And welcome to the chat, Toy Addict. I really appreciate you being here. So back to the subject. I knew that these were going to be, the future baseball cards, because the reason why old baseball cards are worth so much is a lot of people just threw them away in the 50s and the 60s and even in the 70s. They didn't know that baseball cards are going to be worth so much money. Even my dad, we have good fun conversations about what it was like growing up in the 50s and the 60s, and a lot of people just threw baseball cards away. They didn't even, back then there wasn't really a collector. There's always been collectors and stuff, but there hasn't been really like the stuff that now, because eBay helps generate money in secondary market and everything. So yeah, that's my first item, was this. This is one of my favorite Nintendo games that ever came out. It's Pirates. It's a really fun game. Let's see if we can see here. You kind of like a ship. You sail around. You kind of like trade with different trade hubs and stuff like that. It's a really fun game, and I found this at a convention. They have video game conventions now. It's called Southern California Retro Gaming Expo, and I actually had a booth there. I was selling some of my Funko customs, and I did some limited edition Mega Mans for that. Excuse me. So that's our first item today. The second one is I want to talk about bobbleheads too. Believe it or not, Funko Pops, this was the very first thing that Funko ever did. Was they did, get in the light here, they did a Bob's Big Boy bobblehead. Now, not this one. This isn't the first one made. I think it was 1998. And that's how Funko started. Funko started with bobbleheads, and bobbleheads have been out for a long time. I want to say bobbleheads were super popular in the 60s. And you can just type in on eBay vintage bobbleheads, and you can see some of that stuff. And so I want to talk about that real quick. Is bobbleheads are very, very awesome. You can still find a lot of these at garage sales. People don't know what they have. You have to do some research on them. But this is a Bob's Big Boy, which is a very famous car hop that is in Burbank, California, the city that I live in. And I thought I would buy this to kind of, I was going to repaint this into something kind of fun. So bobbleheads are definitely something that, you guys should be looking out for, especially their sports ones that they come out for games. They're limited edition. They hand them out during the games of a baseball game before you go in, and they're usually a run of like 15,000, 20,000, and some of them are worth a really good amount of money. I found some really good ones at Goodwill and secondary thrift shops for like $5, and some of them are worth $40 or $50, $60. It's easy money, and it's really quick just to look it up on eBay. It takes literally seconds. Bring in your cell phone, boom, you're looking at it. So that's their second item, bobblehead from Bob's Big Boy. If you guys aren't familiar with Bob's Big Boy, if you're ever in Burbank, California, which is outside of Los Angeles, this is a place you definitely need to go to. Google Bob's Big Boy. Let's see here. Bob's Big Boy. And it's actually in Toluca Lake. It's just outside of Burbank, but it's like one of the most famous car hops in Southern California. They plan to demolish it so many times over the years, and now it's I want to say it's actually a historic landmark. I'm not 100% sure, but they've saved it a few times, and now it's a permanent thing, and it's one of the few Bob's Big Boys that existed. It was pretty much like back in the day, it was pretty much like a McDonald's before the drive-thrus and everything. You'd pull up, the girl would come out with the roller skates and everything. They still have all that. There's no roller skating girls anymore because of probably liability and things like that. But definitely, if you're in Burbank, California, you definitely gotta check that. So let's check out the stream and make sure that everything's good. I kind of wanted to do a quick video today on this. We have a couple more items, so stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat, and I will take them one by one. So far, no questions, no problem. And so let's get to the next item. I kind of wanted to actually touch on a little piece of kind of interesting thing. Does anyone remember New York Seltzer? It was from the 1980s, and it was a super popular soda. This crazy young entrepreneur who was 20, I forget his name. His dad owned like a soda company, and he started his own soda company in the 80s. Those that are old enough remember original New York Seltzer. And why I want to show you this on Show and Tell today is these are they redid these ones. So this is a new New York Seltzer that just came out. Another company bought it. I talked to the gentleman that owns the company. He's a really nice guy. He sent me cases of this stuff to kind of promote it on Instagram, on my Evolos Instagram a year ago, and I saved a bunch of these bottles because I was going to do a review and stuff like that. I ended up saving these, so that's why I have them. You can still find these now. They reissued them, and they come in all kinds of crazy flavors. But what I wanted to post on was that people are taking old things from back 20, 30 years ago, and they're reintroducing them into the popular culture today. So I kind of wanted to show you guys this New York Seltzer. If you guys never tried this, it's I'm going to actually give them a little bit of promotion. I'll leave a link down below to their Twitter page or their Instagram page. It's pretty much like natural sugar, and it's kind of like soda, but this was super popular in the 80s, and I wanted to show you guys this about how nostalgia plays a big role in today's marketing, in some of today's hottest products. Coca-Cola is kind of like one of the most well-known popular brands that have carried over through the years, and you can tell through the years Coca-Cola really hasn't changed much because they're it's their brand identity. And so I wanted to show you guys this as a little piece of history. This blueberry soda is a limited edition. They didn't make too many of these, and it's really good. And this is my last bottle, and as a matter of fact, I'm probably going to throw the rest of them in the freezer for 20 minutes and then enjoy these probably this weekend. These are really good when they're cold. So anyway, shout out to New York Seltzer on bringing back this iconic soda from the 80s. Black Cherry is also a really good one. It's kind of funny I brought that one out. Paisley, Bradley, you were talking about baseball cards earlier. I missed a few minutes. Yes, for anyone that's tuning in now, you can go back later and watch it. We covered two things. We covered video games and bobbleheads, so you can go back. And also, if you have a question, please leave it in the comments, and I'll try to answer it for you. So what we got up next for show and tell, kind of weird saying that, is 35mm cameras. This is a niche that I got into about a year ago. And I don't really talk too much about 35mm cameras on my channel, and I really should, because this is an amazing niche to get into. For those that aren't familiar, what is a 35mm camera? Some of you might ask. And it's funny. It's a camera. It's an older camera. It's not digital. It takes film for the newer teenagers and young adults out there. Before, you have to use film, and it would be exposed by the light. And then I'm going to take this apart and see if I can get this out. So what happens is you basically were able to, you take the film and you put the film in the back. You take your pictures. Everything was manual, as in you had to set all your settings. Everything's not digital, so you have to know about your ISOs and your light meters and all that stuff. So I wanted to show you guys 35mm cameras. It's not really a nostalgia thing, but I think I wanted to show you guys this because I have a feeling that 35mm cameras are going to be a big thing in the future. And what I mean is, we're so used to cell phones, we're so used to digital everything, that there's going to be a time where where people that are kids and teenagers that are growing up today are gonna come back to this stuff. I'm telling you. They're gonna be like, oh, 35 millimeter camera. Those were those old things that they used to do a long time ago. You had to like, set up your shot. You had to adjust for your lighting, and there was only like 24 exposures. Listen to this. Remember that sound? Ah, so great. And they take different lenses, just like the lenses they have now. But everything's not digital. You need to focus in everything. So that is 35 millimeter cameras. I'm telling you, this is going to be a hot thing down the road once, these are going to be hip pretty soon, when people are going to be like, we need to start doing 35 millimeter camera stuff. But anyways, this is a niche that I've got into about a year ago, and I don't talk much about it, and I really should, because I know a pretty good amount about this stuff. And it's another good thing to learn about if you're into reselling, because I find these for dirt cheap, and believe it or not, some of these lenses, they go for hundreds of dollars, some of them. And people just think that these are trash because they're old. And I'm telling you right now, there's good money to be made in 35 millimeter camera. So you guys look for that. So if we have any questions, I'm going to open up the floor for a couple questions. I wanted to make this a quick video, do a show and tell. This is brand new. We're going to do something new. I thought I'd show you some of my stuff. Since it's Throwback Thursday, we'll talk about some nostalgia stuff. If you have any questions, Paisley's saying I'm making her feel old. We're not old. Age is a mindset. Let me tell you that. I'm almost 40 years old, and I feel better now than I did in my 20s. And I'm not lying to you. I feel better now. I feel like I have more energy. I feel I'm more optimistic. And even though life can get you down, for me personally, I feel like age is just up here. Paisley says she would love a video about cameras. I see them frequently, but know nothing about them. One thing that I can tell you is, even if you see like Canon, Minolta, Kodak, and everything, there is good stuff and there is junk. The thing is doing your research. It always comes down to doing the research. And like I said, I have a feeling that 35 millimeter cameras are going to come back one day. Not in a big way, but it's going to be one of those trendy things where, like, oh, everyone on Instagram is getting 35 millimeter cameras and they're developing them and they're putting them on Instagram. I have a feeling that's going to be a thing. So anyways, guys, I don't see any more questions in the chat. We're going to open it up for a couple more minutes. I really appreciate you guys being here. I know it's kind of late. I need to run off to work myself. And just appreciate you guys being here. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. If you have any questions about, future things that you want to see, maybe some new stuff for the channel, I'm also open to that. I'm also thinking about starting a podcast with another reseller, and I'll give you guys more info about that, and I think it'll be really interesting. Toy Addict says, yes, cameras. Last year I went to an estate sale full of lenses and cameras, but they weren't cheap, so I just didn't know what to get. I think I lost big on that one. You never know. Like I said, a lot of stuff is going to be junk. A lot of it's going to be good. Like, let me show you a little something, a little tip. Not necessarily, but you see this Minolta? You see how it has, let's see if you can see, the CLC right here? A lot of them don't have that. And I'm forgive me for not knowing exactly what that means, and I should. It's a special function on the camera, and a lot of them don't have that. So like, if you see, two of these side by side and they're both $5, you're going to want to pick up the one that says CLC. Let's see if you can see it right here. See? Right here. Anyways, that's just one of the things that you learn when you start dealing with different brands of cameras. I want to thank you guys all for showing up. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Things have been crazy. I'm sorry I haven't been making a lot of videos for you guys, trying to balance work life and everything, and it's been really hard. I'm kind of struggling with some other stuff, some other personal issues, so that's why I'm not being able to come and make videos as consistent as I am. But please subscribe to my channel, click the bell below, get notifications, because I'm going to be doing this stuff every once in a while. I'll just go and do go live and just talk about something. So I hope you enjoyed the show and tell, where we talked about video games, we talked about bobbleheads, we talked about New York Seltzer, and we talked about 35 millimeter cameras on this one. So you guys have a good one. Enjoy your weekend, and see you soon.